Hey, what's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host for the Medical Millionaire podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I hope you guys are having a great day. This is a first time for me. I woke up this morning, this weekend, this Saturday, and I had an epiphany. The epiphany is I'm over here trying to educate you on how to run your practice like a business, how to look at profit, how to look at top line revenue, how to increase your margins, focus on finance, sales, the treatment rooms, the treatment planning, marketing, all of this shit. And how to implement a good tech stack, right? From the patient experience, from when you actually acquire a patient to see them in your practice, to have a conversation with them in your treatment room or you book them, the whole gamut. We talk about GLP-1s, we talk about wellness, we talk about injectables, we talk about facials, we talk about estheticians, compensation plans, how to sell your practice to private equity. But the biggest problem that I now found is the problem is you. The problem is the practice owner. Like, you can go spend money on marketing if you want to and drive a lead. You can go buy the best EMR system in the world. You can buy the best CRM system. You can buy the best damn lasers. You can buy the best, injectables. You can get your pharmaceuticals from the best compound pharmacies out there. You can have the best facility, the most beautiful facility, but none of it's going to work unless you actually jump in. You take accountability for what the practice should be. You take accountability for what your financial freedom looks like. When is that going to be? Is it now? Is it later? Do you want to sell your practice? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to hand it down to your kids? Do you want to have a legacy? What is it going to be? You have to decide. I am constantly educating practice owners on how to run a practice like a business. At the end of the day, this thing generates profit or it generates loss. That's up to you. But I'm telling you right now, you are the one that's in the way. I am so sick and tired of hearing, I feel like I'm busy. I feel like I'm busy. I feel like it's getting busier. Like, what does that even mean? I'm not even kidding. I've talked to practice owners all the time. I interview them or I talk to them on the phone, try to educate them. And I'm always hearing, I feel like it's busy. I feel like last month was busier. I feel like it's picking up. What is that feeling? Like, are you looking at your numbers and making a logical decision? Or are you just have this feeling? Do you just have this emotional connection, this thought? Like, I don't know how you could look at last month's numbers or forecast next month's numbers based off of a feeling, right? And I want you to take this seriously because to me, like, sure, maybe there's some humor in it, but uh, what is this feeling? Like, how do you not know what your numbers are? Let's not say, yeah, last month I felt like it was busy. I felt like sales were good. What do you mean you felt like sales were good? Did you look at the damn numbers? Were they up? Were they down? Did we make a profit? How much did we spend on marketing? Did our software costs go up? Did our staff compensation go up? What was our revenue per hour? Like, this whole thing of like, hey, you know what? I feel like it's going to pick up. I feel like it's going to pick up. I feel like it's getting busier. Is this just running in a business based off of an emotional feeling, based off of intuition? Now, look, I get some people have great intuition. I believe in that stuff. But at the same time, when you're running a business, you can't just go off of a feeling and go off of a hunch and say, I feel like it's doing well. I feel like we're getting better. I feel like we're making the right decisions. I feel like it's a good idea to buy that laser. I feel like it's a good idea to roll out this treatment. I feel like it's a good idea to buy this product, to hire this marketing person. What the hell? What do you mean we feel this way? Why don't we conduct diligence? Why don't we look at the actual numbers? If we truly want to pat ourselves on the back and stand tall and go into a conference and get on stage and educate other people, you have to know that this is a business and you have to run it like a business. That's the whole intent. That's the whole purpose, right? Look back at your why. Like, why did you open this practice? Did you open it because you wanted to inflict pain? Or did you open it because you felt like it might be a good idea? Or did you conduct some sort of analysis, right? You went and said, you know what, this is a great location because this is where people navigate. This is where people live. This is a high income area. This is a volume based area. I'm going to buy this equipment because This is what it looks like in this particular demographic, this area. It services these people. That's like when you went to open up this practice. Obviously, you had to take a leap of faith. You had to believe in yourself. I totally get that. Being an entrepreneur, you have to take risk, right? You have to take risk, and I respect that at the highest level. But as you start to grow your practice, as you start to really bring in profits, right? You bring in sales, it goes up every month. You have to hire staff. You have to inject marketing. You have to buy new equipment. You have to understand inventory costs. You have to understand everything that it takes in going into ordering, all of the products, the SKUs, like everything that it takes to going into running an effective practice. And you have to continue to evolve, right? You can't just keep going off of a hunch, keep going off of a feeling, right? The average Medspa does $1.5 million a year in sales. Like, this is a serious thing. And most of those practices are not making money. Okay. If you want to actually make money, you want to actually make a profit. That's the other thing too, is I always see like, oh, we did really good last year. We did like, 1 million, 2 million. Cool. What was your net income? I've asked so many practice owners that. What was your net income? What was your profit? I don't know. I'm not sure what my numbers are. And, my CPA is still doing the report. What do you mean your CPA is still doing the report? I don't understand it. Like, if cash comes into the business, it goes into whatever POS system you have, and then it should push to QuickBooks, right? QuickBooks, some sort of software program, marketing or accounting software. QuickBooks is super easy. It syncs up with all your bank accounts, right? So cash goes into your bank account. Your bank account then pushes all the data to QuickBooks. And then QuickBooks basically says, are these sales? Are these expenses? Every time you swipe your card, right, for new inventory, or you go to lunch, or, you pay utility bills, you pay your rent, or whatever it is. That comes from a bank account or a credit card. That goes into QuickBooks. It goes in as an expense. It's just all matching. Is this sales or are these expenses? What type of sales were they? So at the end of the month, you should know exactly what your net profit was. Okay, and if you did like, let's say $100,000 last month, and you spent 120, but then you're telling me like you felt we were busy. I feel like it's picking up. What you're really saying is you actually lost 20 grand last month. So this whole feeling, this whole going off of an emotional, delusion, like that's really what I'm going to cop it up to be. It's an emotional delusion that is not reality. This emotional delusion, thinking that you're doing well, thinking that you're achieving, going off of a hunch. I feel like we're getting busier. What do you mean you feel that way? How many leads came in? How many converted? How many bookings did we have? What was our average price per patient visit? Was it up? Was it down? What was my provider's revenue per hour? Was it higher? Was it lower? What are my providers selling? Are they selling mainly injectables? Are they selling mainly laser treatments? What are my SDs doing? Are my SDs even making money? I've seen practices where their estheticians are just crushing it. Like they do a phenomenal job of rebooking. They get them into the ecosystem. They do the facial. They upsell them. They implement skin regimens. Like, they keep this incubation system with inside the practice, get them to a point where they do injectables, both them on the wellness, both them on the lasers. Like, that's what your SE should be doing. Some SEs are just like, oh, I just started to do this facial, cute, cute, cute. Like, you're losing so much money on that, especially if you have an expensive hydrofacial and she's just running that equipment all the time. Like, you're losing money on that. Right? But this whole thing of like, I feel like we're getting busier. I feel like it's picking up. I feel like last month was really good. It's weird. It's I don't know. Maybe I just come from it from a very logical perspective. And maybe that's because I'm a dude. I don't know, or I know numbers, or I just analyze finance. I've been studying finance, for 15 years. For the listeners that have tuned in for a while, like, you guys know that I have, a tremendous amount of real estate, stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency. I post about it on social media. And there's a reason I do that, is because I'm very intrigued with finance. I'm very intrigued with, if you earn a dollar, how do you have that dollar compound itself? Right. And so for me, if someone was to say, hey, like, how did you do in the market last year? Or how was your real estate portfolio positioned last year? And if I said, I feel like it was good. It just felt good. What do you mean it felt good? Like, did you make 10% on your money, 20% on your money, 30% on your money? Like, where do you want to be? Like, for me, I know, like, dude, if I can make 10% of my money, I'm pretty damn happy. Anything above that, awesome. So if I hit 8% of my money, I'm not super happy. It's maybe it's just a logical thing, but I'm constantly hearing that I feel like it's picking up. I feel like it's getting busy. I feel like the marketing is working. I feel like the software is working. This whole hunch, this whole feeling, and I hate to just regurgitate it, but that's what I want you guys to really understand is how many times have you asked yourself, how was our month last month? Your staff, your CPA, you, your partner. Instead of saying, how busy are we? How are sales? What's the overall vibe at the practice? Why don't you have a finance meeting, right? And go through everything at least once a month. Go through every single thing. What did we sell in injectables? What was the margin? How much did we sell? Do you know that? No. Do you know that? Can you get that out of your EMR? Is it the majority sales of the practice? What did you sell in laser treatments? What did you sell in GLP-1s, peptides? What did you sell in retail products? What was the profit margin on every single one of those line items? And sit there and analyze it. Because I'm telling you, when you do this, you will make decisions that put you in a position to become an expert business owner. You need to go from practice owner to CEO to business owner and actually sit down and look at your finances, look at your EMRs. And if your stuff's all over the place, you should hire somebody to consolidate it into a centralized environment that you can actually understand. Right now, why is it even important to know how many injectables you sold last month versus facials? Why is that important? Okay, because you know what your margins are. You know what your patients want. You know how to deploy marketing dollars into what services and treatments make sense. Okay, talking about the practice right now, 60% of their treatments are all fillers and injectables, neurotoxins. Pretty common. I would say that's pretty common across the board, right? Well, how much of their sales was wellness? Okay, it's like 4%. 4%. How can we take our wellness sales to 20%? What do we have to do? What's the game plan? What's the playbook? Cool. We know that 4% of all of our sales last month, let's say that we did $100,000 in sales, just to make numbers easy. If that's 4%, we did $4,000 in sales. How many patients did it take to produce $4,000 in sales? Okay, let's just say it took 8. Let's see, each of them spent $500. 8 patients. So you're telling me out of your entire base, your entire patient base of 4,000, 5,000, whatever your base is, you're telling me that you had 8 people? 8 people came through the door for wellness? Do you know how many people are using GLP-1s and peptides and want information about wellness? Like, is it on your website? Are you talking about it on social? Are you bidding on it on pay-per-click campaigns for Google, for Meta? Like, what's your strategy here? And if you're doing 4% and you're like, hey, you know what? I really want to move the needle. I want that to be like 20% of our overall sales. Okay, we've got a 16% delta there. How do we move the needle? Well, you have to start deploying the marketing strategy, okay? And you're going to see that go up. Maybe you have to have the right provider, the right playbook, the right treatment plan, right? But how did you get into injectables anyway, right? You had to have the provider, you had to have the playbook, you had to have the treatment plan, right? You had to do the marketing, you had to post it on social media. If you were to pull up your social media right now, and I know all of you practice owners, injectors, you all follow each other, right? If you were to pull up your phone and just scroll through your feed, okay, on Instagram, most of the information that I see and most of what you see has to do with injectables. It has to do with injectables, and then it has to do with promos, maybe being funny or giving some value with inside the practice. I see a massive lack of menu service distribution. What do I mean by menu service distribution? I mean that you're not comfortable talking about some of the services that you offer. And that's okay, right? You become very comfortable in talking about injectables, very comfortable in talking about fillers, very comfortable in talking about the outcomes when you conduct these signature treatments that you're used to. Let's call them legacy treatments. I want to challenge you, like, start talking about service menu items that you want to increase visibility and sales with inside the practice. Start marketing them, start running ad campaigns with them, boost this stuff on Instagram, run campaigns through Meta, Facebook, push this stuff out there, push the organic content out there, post it on all the social media platforms you can, right? And build out your strategy to really start talking about that and start educating every single one of your patients. How many patients do you have coming in next week? When they come in for their typical treatment, right? Talk to them about the other things that you're doing in the practice. Ask them, hey, have you heard of peptides and GLP-1s yet? And I'm just using this as an example, guys. Like, are you on them? Are you talking to them? Are you curious? Like, what are your overall wellness goals? You're hitting a certain age. Like, how are you feeling inside? Like, and start to evolve that framework around how you actually want to give value to your patients. You're not giving them value by just doing the same damn treatment over and over and over and over. And then showing up next month being like, I felt like last month felt pretty busy. It felt pretty damn busy. And I think next month, I feel like it's picking up. This is just nonsense, right? I hate to be serious on it. I mean, it's there's some humor to it. Like there's it's really interesting to talk about. And I want you guys just to become elite. I want you guys to become leaders. I want you guys to be the true entrepreneurs that you can be. And if I was in your shoes, if I was a provider practice owner, my main focus, let's say you've had your practice for 4 or 5, 6 years. If I was you, I would start taking business classes. I would start hiring consultants within the space, coaches within the space. There is people in the industry. There's experts. And these experts are very good when it comes to calculating finance, revenue per hour, average patient spend, how much you should deploy on marketing, how to convert, what your conversion rate should be, what do benchmarks look like, what do rebooking conversions look like, how to break down your P&L by service, category. If you don't have this, I would highly recommend going into this framework and become a CEO of the practice. You have to know your numbers. Like, if you don't know your stats, you just don't have a business. And it's just becoming more and more apparent to me that you can buy the fancy website, you can have the cute social media, you could have the beautiful practice, you could spend all this money for the show, right? This show, this appeal, this vanity, if you will. And it can come back and bite you in the ass, right? Because the reality is there's expenses running this business. There's a massive liability component to it, and it's real, right? Imagine if your sales dropped 50%, could you survive? How much cash do you have in the bank, right? What do your reserves look like? By the way, how are you deploying your reserves? If you have reserves, are they sitting in a bank account making 1-2% max? Shit, bank accounts probably, I think they pay less than 1%. I have no idea because I don't leave any money in the banks, right? So I do know it's it's not much. I think it's probably like less than 0.5%. So if you have reserves sitting in a bank account, why are you not deploying those to at least a money market account, a treasury account? That's going to pay you 5% on your money. If you got 100 grand in the bank, you deploy that to a treasury account that pays 5%. I mean, shit, that's 5 grand, a year. I mean, it's not much, but it's still what, $250 a month? It's going to pay for something, right? It's a return. It's a free return. Now imagine if you're making 10% on that money, right? 10% of that money that's just sitting in the bank, you could just deploy it to an asset that's going to produce 10% for you. That's $10,000 a year. It's almost, $1,000 a month, right? And so, that's what you guys need to start thinking about is, how do I compound my time? How do I compound my dollar? And, how do I really run this practice efficiently, effectively, looking at every single dollar and where I can actually contribute that capital to make a return? And know your numbers, right? This whole, like, I feel like it's getting better. I feel like it's picking up. It just feels good. I don't know. It's just It's a false representation of reality. And you can never say that, it feels busy if in reality it's not. It's like, oh, how were your sales last month? Sales were great. Cool. What were the numbers? I don't know, but I just know that we were super busy and we did great. Like, that's insane, right? No one's going to buy that business. No one's going to buy that business. No one wants that business. Now, if it was, hey, cool, yeah, what were your sales last month? Well, we did $120,000 last month. 50,000 of that was injectables. The other 50,000 of that was laser treatments, and the other 20,000 of that was in wellness. And our strategy going forward is to try to duplicate that and double those numbers every 12, 24 months. Like, that shows that you know your numbers, at least to a minimum. Okay. That shows you know what you're talking about. And that shows you have a roadmap. That shows that you actually have a strategy that you want to implement, right? It's way better than, I felt like it was busy. Like, at least try to understand the elementary approach to numbers, to finance. The most important part of being a business owner is understanding your numbers and understanding what sales truly look like. $100,000 a month in sales, if your burn is 120, no one's buying that business. If it's $100,000 a month in sales and your burn is 50, you're making 50K, great business, right? I'd rather buy that business all day long over a business that's doing $1 million a month in sales and burning $2 million a month in sales, right? Sure, obviously there's a problem with both of those, but if you can analyze the numbers, you're going to be more effective and more effective business owner. And so for you guys, you need to start becoming investors, right? I want you to take it a step further. Being the CEO of your practice is important, and running your practice as a provider owned practice owner, running around, doing every single treatment. Look, I get it if that's what we have to do. I totally get that, and I'm cool with it, especially if it's your passion. But now it's your accountability to start running your practice like a CEO. And once you become a CEO, you need to take it a step further and become the investor of your practice. Okay, guys, I had to get that off my chest. I appreciate you. Until next time, happy injecting.